Am I happy at first glance? I just got to see it. The answer is no, I'm not. I'm not happy. But am I happy with where we're going? I'm thrilled.
And radical Dems Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer emerged today from his rightful place in relative obscurity to wring his hands publicly and needlessly implore the president to sign the bill. President Trump doesn't want another shutdown, but he also makes it clear Dems would be to blame.
I don't think you're going to see a shutdown. I wouldn't want to go to it now. If you did have it, it's the Democrats' fault. And I accepted the first one, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished because people learned during that shutdown all about the problems coming in from the southern border. I am extremely unhappy with what the Democrats have given us. It's sad. It's sad. They're doing the country no favor. They are hurting our country very badly.
Here tonight, we discuss the reckless agreement that does little to address the worsening national security crisis at our border. Congressman Mark Green, former Reagan White House political director, Ed Rollins, Washington Times opinion editor Charlie Hurt, among our guests. And newly revealed documents find it was corrupt FBI officials who were the real perpetrators intervening in the 2016 election for Hillary Clinton. The new report from Judicial Watch finds the FBI General Counsel and Hillary Clinton's personal attorney talking about James Comey's letter on the Clinton emails days before the presidential election. We take it all up here tonight. Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova joins us. And on Wall Street today, a convincing, spirited rally today, driven by the president's rising approval ratings in the most recent polling, his success in managing the Chinese trade talks and tariffs, and the rising confidence that the Mueller witch hunt and Intelligence Committee investigations are expiring without impact and resulting in validation for President Trump. We take it all up here tonight. First, on trade. The president saying even without a deal, the United States is finally winning with China.
If we're close to a deal where we think we can make a real deal and it's going to get done, I could see myself letting that slide for a little while. Either way, I'm happy. I'm happy either way. I could live receiving billions and billions of dollars a month from China. China never gave us 10 cents. It was always the opposite way. Now they're paying billions of dollars a month for the privilege of coming into the United States and honestly taking advantage of our country.
They're still taking advantage of the country because they are stealing not tens of billions, but hundreds of billions of dollars in intellectual property and technology from the United States. That's the subject of the current trade talks taking place in Beijing. Tonight, Moody's chief economist John Lunsky among our guests. Our top story, will he or won't he sign? The president will be presented with a bipartisan deal that is billions of dollars short of what he has demanded and certainly what he should expect. Republican Congressman Brian Babin says this deal is insufficient. He says he hopes the president will do whatever is necessary to provide border security.
This is insufficient. $5.7 billion for 200 miles of wall is less than 0.1% of $1 trillion plus budget. The Democrats simply, they give lip service that they want to secure the border, and yet they don't come up with the deeds to do it. I hope that the president will use whatever option it takes to secure this border because it is an enormous threat to our nation's survival.
And Nancy Pelosi and the radical Dems content to allow illegal immigrants, criminals, drugs to flood across that border. Since being sworn in, they're using their time to investigate the president rather than work in the national interest. This Congress, for comparison, has passed only 5 bills that have become law. 5. The House has held 59 hearings, a number of them involving the president and his administration. The House has worked only 19 of the past 29 days. And over that same period, President Trump has been working nonstop to secure the border against advancing caravans of thousands upon thousands of Central Americans. He's been supervising trade talks to eliminate the devastating trade deficits with China, directing America First foreign policy by supporting Venezuela opposition leader Juan Guaido. And U.S. forces will soon destroy ISIS in Syria within weeks, if not sooner, is the estimate. President Trump guiding Wall Street and the Fed on interest rates. They needed guidance. For their part, they tried to kill the economy with interest rate hikes. They have been chastened. The president is leading the nation, and we haven't seen the likes of this leadership in decades. Our first guest tonight is a member of the Freedom Caucus. He says the bipartisan border deal Congress has offered the president is embarrassing. Joining us tonight, Congressman Mark Green, member of the House Oversight Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, good to have you with us. It is an embarrassment. Certainly, I could not imagine being any part of that committee and not being embarrassed that that was the product over the course of 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's insulting. I'll even go so far as to say insulting. I mean, we were asking for $5.7 billion. We got $1.3 billion. It's pretty clear the Dems don't care about border security. I mean, we view it as a crisis. 300 Americans dying every week from heroin overdose, and we know that's coming across the southern border. I mean, they just don't care. It's a humanitarian crisis, and they don't care. For them, it's about 2020 and winning the presidential election.
And if their conduct, their values carry the day in 2020, I can't imagine that this republic would have much of a future. This is utter disdain for the security of the American people, the impact of illegal immigration, the impact, as you reference, of $50 billion in the illicit drug trade every year going into the coffers of the cartels. This is shameless conduct and a shameless response. The president has called the nation to arms to support him as he deals with a national emergency. That emergency doesn't go away whether he declares it's a national emergency, whether the radical left in this country ignores it. It's still there, and the collateral damage is devastating for this country.
It's huge. Yeah, I think of it like, I'm a physician, Lou, and I think of it like an arterial bleed. I mean, you don't fix a scratch on the forehead when you've got an arterial bleed. You put a tourniquet on it and you get it fixed. And that's what's going on at the southern border. And we need a solution. We need it fast. I encourage the president to do whatever he can to get the wall built.
I want to turn to Senator McConnell. The majority leader has had an extraordinary rhetorical journey over the course of the past 2 weeks, warning the president not to declare a national emergency, warning him that the Republican Party might not support him in so many words. And today, this, if we could roll that for the audience, I want to get your comments, Congressman.
Yes, sir.
I think Chairman Shelby and the Democrats on a bipartisan basis have done a good job. From a Republican point of view, there is money in there for new barrier fencing. It's not everything the president hoped to get, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. I hope he'll decide to sign it.
Your thoughts on the Senate Majority Leader and his effusive guidance to the president?
Well, I'm disappointed, obviously. I mean, 55 miles of barrier is not 243 miles of barrier, and Homeland Security, the professionals, came back to the administration and to us and said, we need 243 miles. This is basically stiff-arming Homeland Security and telling them, no, we're going to give you 55. It's unconscionable to me, and I understand. I mean, I've been a state senator before. I'm new in Congress, but I understand that you want to come out of a meeting like that and be excited about it. But the truth of the matter is this is an insult, and it's certainly not going to get us where we need to be on border security.
And as I said, that national crisis will not change, irrespective of whether it's declared to be a national emergency or not.
That's right.
Whether the Democrats continue and frankly, some of the Rhino Republicans continue to deny the reality and the pain and the devastating results of addiction, the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans. Dems, The radical Dems and Beto O'Rourke, separated from reality. I mean, this guy O'Rourke is quite a character. A counter rally. He had the grand delusionally decided he could have a counter rally against the president. That didn't work out quite.
That was a bit of a wake-up call for him, wasn't it, Lou?
Well, it should have been. It should have been. I'm pretty sure that it won't work. He said last night that El Paso was safe. This is with the DEA talking about it is actually the hub of the drug corridor from Las Cruces, New Mexico to El Paso, Texas to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, as you know. Here, let's put this up. This is from Judicial Watch, reporting on just how deadly that area is. The DEA declaring it a major hub for opiates and methamphetamines entering the United States. Customs, Border Protection, illegal immigrant arrests up 1,588% from January of last year to January this year. Islamist terrorists smuggled into cartels into the United States near El Paso. And you've got Beto O'Rourke, who can't gather a crowd. He also can't gather his senses enough to understand what's staring he and great Texans in that area straight in the face. Congressman?
Oh, well, Lou, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, I think he had 200 guys show up at his rally, and the president had like 69,000 people apply. And this guy thought he was going to make a statement. He made a statement, and I agree with the president. End of a presidential bid on Mr. O'Rourke's side. You know, El Paso is a dangerous place. Now, it's significantly, from what I understand, it's better than it was 10, 15 years ago before they built the wall. Interestingly enough, when I was an infantry officer, I went down to Fort Bliss, Texas, and did a rotation there. We did some training, and our leadership wouldn't even let us go into parts of El Paso. I mean, we were basically told it's off limits. And then they built a wall, and it is better. So walls work, and it's time to secure the border.
Yeah, El Paso, if we can, we are told by reliable sources, including the reporting, by the way, of Judicial Watch, that the numbers 24, I believe it was 23 murders last year in El Paso against 1,200, more than 1,200 in Juarez. Walls, as you say, do work.
They do.
But we also know sometimes numbers are doctored, and that's the allegation against the El Paso law enforcement agencies, including the sheriff's office and police department.
Well, when your military leadership won't let a group of soldiers who are pretty well trained go into an area, it's probably not safe.
Yep. Congressman, we appreciate it as always. Good to see you.
Thanks, Lou. Good to see you.
Congressman Mark Green. Still ahead here tonight, the evidence of more corruption in the FBI leadership, the FBI working hand in hand with the Clinton campaign in 2016. The wonder is that President Trump won, with the U.S. government working against him and apparently at the orders and behest of one Hillary Clinton. We take it up with Attorney Joe DeGeneva here tonight. Up next, President Trump using that rally in El Paso to reaffirm the need for a border wall.
Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. Walls save lives. Walls save tremendous numbers of lives. They're full of crap when they say it hasn't made a big difference. Safety is the birthright of every American, which is why we must finish the wall.
We'll be right back. Ed Rollins joins me next. Stay with us.
Taken out thousands and thousands of people from MS-13. But if we had proper border security, including a very powerful wall, we wouldn't have to work so hard. And it would be a lot safer.
President Trump declaring build a wall, and Mitch McConnell saying he wouldn't be troubled with the president using his powers of transfer to get more money to build that. Quite a change by the Senate Majority Leader. He hasn't always been so open and, well, helpful over the past 2 weeks. Here's what the senator had to say reported by the Washington Post just 2 weeks ago, McConnell cautioned President Trump privately about the consequences of declaring a national emergency, telling him the move could trigger political blowback and divide the GOP. He told Trump, not President Trump, the president, no, Trump, that Congress might end up passing a resolution disapproving the emergency declaration, which would force the president to contemplate issuing his first veto ever in the face of opposition from his own party. Blather, bull, and nonsense. Joining us tonight, former Reagan White House political director, Fox Business political analyst, Ed Rollins. Can you imagine the speaker sitting there talking to
Majority
the president
leader.
like that?
Majority leader.
Not what did I say?
Right, we're rid of the speaker.
Yeah, well, let's get back to the Senate.
No, I can't. And I think the reality is the president's going to do what he has to do. An emergency.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you about McConnell, because now he's saying he won't be troubled by the transfer authority of the president, acknowledging it, supporting it. A week ago, he's being accused of talking to the president, like a poor cousin.
He's a complicated man. He's done a good job on the judges, and the rest of it's all been rather weak, I think. And I think the reality is he looks to his own caucus to see which direction they want to go. Like defending this budget agreement is all about Shelby, who is one of his right arms, which was
Shelby hasn't done anything his entire career in the Senate.
But he's one of the Klan, and the bottom line is they're always protected. It's a club. It's a terrible deal. It's a terrible deal under any circumstances, and I think the president said that today. The decision he makes at this point in time is critical. I think he will build the wall. I think he needs to shift money from other places and go do that, and McConnell seems to approve of that, so let's get it done.
So that's a positive. This president has emerged with the wind at his back from this process. He may only get 26% of the money if he accepts this deal. But if he has, under his transfer authority, if he can put together $20 billion from around this administration, I mean, you're talking about the budget this size, he ought to find tens of billions.
This is like the Navy asking for a destroyer and the Congress saying, well, here's a rowboat, call it a destroyer. I mean, the money they put in there, you can buy chicken wire for, it's not going to do the job, and the president's going to have to find other ways of doing the job. He said today very clearly he's going to do that, and Mulvaney had better find, as the OMB director, in addition to the chief of staff, better find the resources to do this.
Well, the acting chief of staff, I mean, this is a kind of a confused period. It seems to me, here's Mulvaney wanting to go to Camp David to negotiate with 3 congressmen. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
He seems to me to be more of a distraction than a facilitator for the president's purpose and direction and his goals. And I want to see that White House come together and march straight ahead toward what the president says get done without reservation.
When the Democrat chairman of the Budget Committee, the new chairman, basically, who was one of the 3 that went to Camp David, said if Mulvaney was president, we'd get all this stuff done. He was very cooperative. That basically that was a very bad sign to me. Mulvaney's job, first of all, it shouldn't be Camp David. That's the presidential retreat, not the staff. And the reality is he shouldn't be taking anybody up there. If you want to have a meeting, you can meet in your office in the White House. But the reality is I don't see anything.
Somebody's playing big shot.
Well,
and that bothers me too.
Well, I've seen it. I've been in the White House. I've seen it.
I'm tired of the people around the president. Certainly not all of them, but a sizable number of people around the president. They're rhinos. They're working against him, and we're seeing it in the damnedest places. And I am really tired of it. And making deals with Democrats that basically are Democratic propositions dressed up as a rhino offering that then they claim credit for successfully negotiating. This is mindless stuff.
I agree.
The Green New Deal, Mitch McConnell, let's give him credit. He is moving straight ahead. He wants the Democrats to get a vote in the Senate on the new Green New Deal.
Well, I'm all for that.
I thought that's a brilliant stroke.
I think it's a brilliant stroke, and I think the reality is they're all basically saying today, well, this is kind of a principle. This isn't really what we want, but they're all going to be forced to stand up one way or the other.
Yeah, they ought to eat that thing.
They ought to eat it, absolutely.
I mean, watching these these geniuses, Sherrod Brown and
Markey
and all of the others, trying to digest what this freshman class of socialists have come up with. It's going to be fun to watch.
It's absurd, and it's better to punch you to know how absurd it is early on, so we can kill it in a cradle.
Well, I'd rather see it continue. I like it kind of bubbling along and sort of they're blending into the brand of the Democratic Party.
As I said, it's now the Socialist Democrat Party. Just see how long Democrat lasts.
You got it. Thanks so much. Ed Rollins. Up next, Virginia Democrats still in disarray. Their lieutenant governor now dealing with a mass exodus of his staffers and those 2 allegations of sexual assault. We take that up and more with the Washington Times' Charlie Hurt. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Fox News uncovering Facebook messages in which a woman made a rape accusation against Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. In one of those messages, the woman considers going forward during the 2017 Virginia gubernatorial election, writing this, quote, "Of course, I want to say something. He shouldn't be running for office. I just don't know what I can do." Well, joining us tonight to talk about the mess in Virginia and far more, we are joined by Charlie Hurt, the Washington Times opinion editor, Fox News contributor. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Lou.
And to watch this extraordinary scandal unfold at the top of the state government of Virginia. It gets worse every day, and no one seems to be compelled to deal with the reality, whether that is to withdraw, to somehow find the truth and absolve themselves. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything close to this in state government. Usually they take themselves out one at a time.
Yeah. And to remember that all of this began all about an actual issue, which was when the governor went on the radio and publicly endorsed a law that amounts to basically infanticide, and back then it was, I thought it couldn't get any worse, and then suddenly it was sort of interesting how much the media ignored that important issue, but then as soon as it became all about blackface and all of this other stuff, then the media got very interested. But the thing I got to say that is kind of karma of sorts here is the fact that when you think about the Democratic Party today, and this is true across the country, they play this game of race, they play racial politics everywhere they go, and Virginia is no exception. They play these politics of race at every turn, and we saw the governor just 2 years ago sliming Ed Gillespie as some kind of racist and accusing him of being somehow an inspiration for what happened, that horrible event that happened in Charlottesville. And to see him now on the horns of this dilemma is it's kind of I don't wish it on anybody, and the whole thing makes me very sad, but it couldn't happen to a better guy.
It is, well, he was particularly quick to demand Northam's resignation.
Yeah.
He was very quick also to deny 1, then 2 accusations of sexual assault, even as the women in one form or another came forward. And the Democratic Party, what are they doing? They're not dealing with it. What happened to #MeToo? What happened to Believe Her? All of the hypocrisy that is mounting on the Democratic Party, as you say, they play the race card, the gender card, group and identity politics, and they seem to be crashing under its weight at this moment.
And remember how hard they came down during the Kavanaugh hearings, and people who try to compare these two episodes, there's no comparison. There was no there with Brett Kavanaugh,
so
and everybody stood back and let his accusers, gave him all the airtime they needed, and I thought that was great. But here you have named women who have specific episodes, who can tell you the date, the time, the place, everything, and they're willing to come forward. Remember, in the case of Kavanaugh, the poor woman didn't even want to come forward. She was outed by Dianne Feinstein and the Democrats, who were willing to do anything they could to destroy a good man's reputation.
I should I should also point out that that's one version of that story that seems to be perhaps more serviceable for the Democrats than potential reality, which is it was something more orchestrated and refined in its predication than we would have ever have assumed initially. Let's turn to what we're watching. The president says he's not pleased with the deal. The Democrats obviously intended to insult him, to the American people. They don't give a damn about border security. They care about illegal immigrants. They are the party they give priority to illegal immigrants, while the Republicans, this president certainly gives priority and primacy to, well, America first, Americans first, making America great. There couldn't be a more stark contrast between the two setting up 2020, and I can't believe the Democrats, the radical Dems, are dumb enough to persist in this.
Yeah, no, it's truly incredible. And I thought that what we said, the rally we saw last night in El Paso is a perfect example of what we're going to see going forward for the next 2 years. And I think President Trump is in a very, very strong position. And I think that Democrats will live to regret, at least politically speaking, live to regret their childishness and their absolute refusal to do the most basic thing that they're supposed to do as federal lawmakers, which is to secure our border and enforce the laws. These people are making a mockery of equal justice under law.
No, you're right. And they're also the laziest bunch I've ever seen. I mean, this president is working day and night for the American people, and they won't show up to even consider the national interest. It's really quite something. And
I love how these people, they come up and they say, well, the wall is not the most effective use of the money. And it's like, well, what have you been doing for the past 30 years?
Yeah, well, we don't even want to know that, I don't believe. Charlie Hurt, thanks so much. Lou. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The Senate Intel Committee with some conclusions. Stay with us. Headlines we're looking at: Senator Elizabeth Warren had the nerve today to make an unannounced visit to a Native American luncheon taking place in Washington, D.C. She couldn't resist, apparently. She didn't address her misleading claims, that's the kindest way to say it, about her Native American heritage, and there didn't seem to be much interest there, too. New emails obtained by Judicial Watch show the corrupt FBI leadership scrambling Hillary Clinton's legal team just before the 2016 election. The documents detail a conference call with Clinton's attorneys about James Comey's announcement that the FBI was investigating thousands of potentially classified emails on the laptop of Anthony Weiner. Haven't heard that name for a while, have we? And the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee says his committee has not found any collusion, any evidence of collusion at all between the Trump administration, its presidential campaign, and Russia. Senator Richard Burr adds the committee is just about done with the investigation. One would certainly hope so. Joining us tonight, Joe DeGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, founding partner of the DeGenova and Tenzing law firm. Joe, good to see you. Let's start with this extraordinary evidence of the relationship between the FBI, the DOJ, and the Clinton campaign. It's scrambling to do whatever she asked. Your thoughts?
Well, it is more evidence of the corrupt relationship between the Obama FBI and Department of Justice with the Clinton lawyers. You will recall, Lou, that from the very beginning, certainly after James Comey's famous news conference, it was very obvious that the dirty cop, James Comey, and all the dirty cops around him had thrown the fight. They never intended to investigate Hillary Clinton. They did intend to ignore all of her criminal violations of the law. They did intend to give every one of the people surrounding her immunity, no search warrants, no subpoenas, allowed them to destroy evidence. The fact that they bent over backwards to accommodate David Kendall her main lawyer, to deal with the new emails on the Wiener laptop is not surprising. In fact, it is confirmatory of the totally corrupt operation that was the Obama FBI and Department of Justice. Hillary Clinton was guilty as hell. They knew it, and they decided to give her a pass.
And they did so seeking quid pro quos.
Yes.
It's stunning stuff.
Yes.
We still don't know what those emails looked like on Wiener's laptop. They were incriminating. They were principally, we're told, but no one knows for sure how many of them were between Hillary Clinton and Uma Abedin, Wiener's wife at the time. Where do those sit, and what is the likely fate of those emails?
Well, here's the thing, Lou. For all this time since Donald Trump became president, and he has been the subject of this coup d'etat, this outrageous display of illegal conduct by senior FBI and DOJ officials, some of those things have gone uninvestigated. We were told by Attorney General Sessions that he had Mr. Huber looking into the FISA stuff and this and that and everything else. I have absolutely no confidence in Mr. Huber. I don't know who's looking into what. We don't have any evidence that anything of substance other than by Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, who can prosecute no one.
Do you have confidence in him?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something, Lou. I used to, but I don't anymore, and I'll tell you why. His conclusions in the first major report that there was no evidence of bias by the people who made decisions in the case involving Hillary Clinton is fundamentally ludicrous in light of the text messages between Strzok, Page, and everybody else. It's just nonsense. So Bill Barr, the new sheriff in town, has an opportunity to investigate properly, set up some grand juries, and hopefully prosecute some of the people that need to be prosecuted.
And every one of those people seems to be an employee of either the FBI or the Justice Department. We'll see if Mr. Barr has the stomach and the spine for it. Let's pray, because it's been a long time since we had a good person running that department. Joe, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, Lou. Thank you.
Joe DeGenova. Appreciate it. Up next, decades of uncontrolled, wild spending in Washington. The national debt, there you are. We've been talking about it for a long time. Well, we just have a historic level for you. It's now above $22 trillion for the first time ever. We take that up and much more right after the break with Moody's.